Joining me now is Zerlina Maxwell, contributor to The Griot, and Ari Melber, co-host of MSNBC's The Cycle, who is working on a new series entitled Presumed Guilty, which examines race and the criminal justice system in the United States. Ari, it seems to me that if you're going to get caught with cocaine, it's real good to be a congressman in the United States. Things turn out pretty well.
I think things turn out a lot better for you if you are a member of Congress. If you are a white American, things turn out better for you than if you're an African American, as you've alluded to on the program before. And I think the history you just showed is important because this is one of those things where this member of Congress, who, as many people have pointed out, voted to say that people who use cocaine should be denied benefits. He still has a lot of government benefits as well as government power.
Zerlina, there are thousands and thousands of people, men, women in America, tonight doing hard time in federal prison cells over exactly what he did.
Right, and I think, you know, to quote Michelle Alexander, there is nothing more than the war on drugs that has contributed to systemic mass incarceration of people of color in this country. And I think that this is the perfect example, actually, to show that disparity. If he was a person of color, if he was in his home state of Florida, it would have been a felony, and he would have lost his voting rights, he would have been denied housing and employment. And so he's very lucky to be white, male, in the District of Columbia, and able to just go back to his job.
And by the way, just my position is that the sentencing and the treatment that he got is the harshest that anyone in America should get anywhere for what he did. I'm not looking for him to get thrown in prison the way other people have been. Let's listen to what he said today. He was off camera. He was talking to reporters. He was recorded today in his office. Let's listen to this.
Work both at home and right here in Washington. And this is something that I will continue to work on for the rest of my life. I will take it one day at a time. And in doing so, I hope to rebuild and regain trust one day at a time. And I'll be doing just that starting.
Congressman, you face an ethics investigation. You face an ethics investigation.
Re-election is the absolute last thing on my mind.
Listen, I wish him luck with the one day at a time thing, but re-election is absolutely the last thing on my mind. Ari, the guy did not forget how to spin while he was in rehab.
No, he didn't forget. I mean, look, the good part about rehab on the human side is it does give you tools to think about things, as they say, one day at a time. The problem for someone in his position is that he does look like a hypocrite, and he's part of a Republican caucus that has these two sets of rules and that doesn't seem to have a problem with a few exceptions. Rand Paul's one that you point out. I think he's good on this because he's co-sponsoring a bill to change this and change mandatory minimums with Democrat Senator Leahy. But most of this caucus and the people that he wants to run for re-election with are perfectly fine with this because they basically have signed off on rules that from the beginning of the process to how we profile and look for these crimes to how we prosecute them to what we do, as Zerlina mentioned, well after people serve their time, which is deny them voting rights and all these other issues that are done in a racially fundamentally unfair way.
It's interesting to watch him coming out of rehab. One of the elements of rehab is honesty and finding your way to more honesty. All the 12-step programs include that. And here's a politician on his first day back in the job, and he has to lie about, are you running for re-election? Re-election is the absolute last thing on my mind.
Right. He probably skipped over a few of the steps. But I think that this is just evidence that there is a growing problem with mass incarceration and the fact that more people of color are in prison than in apartheid South Africa right now, right? And so it's so fundamentally troubling that Republicans, even like Rand Paul, I think that it's a good start that he co-sponsored legislation with Leahy, but I think he needs to do much more. I mean, his rhetoric is right on, but he hasn't done more. He said in an interview with me recently that he is going to do more this year. So I'm waiting for Rand Paul and more Republicans to jump on board because we can't just be throwing people in prison, people of color in prison in the way that we're doing right now.
I think this story is entirely about the teachable moment, about fairness in the penalties for these kinds of things, many of which shouldn't have any kind of real legal penalty at all. Ari Melber and Zerlina Maxwell, thank you both very much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Coming up, how